Good afternoon, everyone, and wish you a very warm welcome to this webinar on building a sustainable future through design. My name is Manisha Mohan. I'm Dean School of Design for UPES. The COVID-19 scenario has really pressed the reset button on our lives, and we are rethinking the way we interact with each other, the way we conduct business, happens. The whole world is changing. And at this point, we are very grateful to the government as well as the healthcare workers and the police for making such a difference. But the question that comes to mind is, what is it that designers can do? What role can designers play during this pandemic? How can we build a better world? How can we impact the lifestyles and the way people interact and work in the future after we get past this difficult period? So there's no one better to help us sort of delve into this issue and discuss the role of design in the future than Professor Pradyumna Vyas. Professor Pradyumna, no introduction. However, just to give you a brief background, he's a master's from IIT Bombay in industrial design. He has spent around 27 years in NID, both as a faculty as well as the director for 10 years. And he is responsible for some of the most important movements in design in the country, such as setting up the India Design Mark. And he's also won several awards for his contribution towards design education. Even after he stepped down from being the director at NID, on the board of several companies. He's an advisor to CII, and he is also a board member of the World Design Organization. UPS School of Design is a member of the World Design Organization, and the World Design Organization focuses on the UNDP sustainable goals and how design and industrial design can sort of contribute towards it. So I thought at this point, Professor Vyas would be best equipped to address some of the questions that we have, the design community as well as prospective design students, faculty, and the industry in terms of how design can play a part, how design can make a difference in making a sustainable world, how design can really contribute towards the COVID-19 scenario. So just to start with, sir, wanted to sort of welcome you and also ask you a little bit about how the role of a designer has changed over the last so many years. You've contributed to design in a big way. Most of the people out there have studied under you or have been guided by you. So how have you seen the role of designers change?
Thank you, Manisha, for kind introduction. Just a small correction, I spent 30 years in NID, 20 years as faculty and 10 years as director. Nevertheless, half of the life has gone in NID. And I think while it is the future is quite exciting for design professionals, but we need to really look into a historical backdrop that when NID started, what were the conditions, and now what are the situations which are emerging, and especially post-COVID. And you rightly mentioned that reset button, because there is something which has happened to this planet, and which is actually forcing us to look into that, how the future course of action has to take place. Now, let me just come back about the design education worldwide. That it started the second industrial revolution, when the electric power and the oil power started coming up, and the mass manufacturing started happening, and streamlining of production when started, especially the automobile and assembly line and all. So I think somewhere there that architecture and design and art, science and architecture came together, and the design emerged, which is focusing more on the product and its looks, and more of a pleasing experience when you are designing something, and it's a pride to possess the product. And it became a very product centric, where many years this particular thing was going on, that let us design a product which is easy to use, comfortable to use, nice to possess, it gives emotional satisfaction, and so on and so forth going on, and the education started building up on this similar aspect. But the economic model which we have seen is that consumption became the whole focus, that more you consume, more economic growth happens. So the GDP was directly connected with more consumption. And when more consumption meaning more production, and more production meaning that economic growth is happening. So this use and throw became order of the day of all, most of the industries and most of the areas, where you are just having a one-time use of any product and you are just chucking it. And we did not realize that this mass consumption and mass production, that planet has certain capacity to take it. And rivers started getting polluted, air, you see that Dehradun is very good in as far as because of the hilly region, but Delhi you can't breathe. Lots of disease were developing because of the pollutions and other things, and people started thinking that this way the manufacturing and consumption is not really working, and this sustainable word started emerging. Now one has to really look the design education which started in 1919 was totally focusing, but the emerging scenario, or the what you call the wicked problem started happening. I think the environment has taken too much of burden. And as Manisha mentioned about the resetting this button, is that this today is one virus, tomorrow there could be another virus which can come because of the whole pollution and the lots of chemicals which are going. We have detached ourselves with river, we have detached ourselves with the flora, fauna, and everything is coming in the packed and the supermarket situation. So I think somewhere we have separated ourselves with the planet Earth, and not realizing the coexistence is so important. And this, especially the science and technology, almost started thinking, the human beings started thinking that with the help of science and technology, we can rule the planet. In fact, all the species were controlled with the science and technology, and then the human beings were just completely having their way, and entire flora and fauna under the control of human being with the science and technology which they're using. But look, a invisible virus suddenly emerges, and where the human being who are totally controlling this planet have been put inside the home in no time. The world has gone and not able to really deal with a virus which you cannot even see. So this kind of thing make us realize that we are also part of this planet. We are also part of the whole system which is operating, and there is no way we should try and control this planet, because whatever you will say, planet will remain there. You don't have to really worry too much of planet, because planet is so powerful that you have to worry for yourself, because the things were there before you and things will be after you. And if we don't behave properly, the planet will put things upside down, and in no time the human species can disappear. And that we have experienced with this virus. Luckily there are not many deaths with this. So this is still time that we have to learn to live in this ecosystem of planet, and that is the way whole shift which is happening. So the historical perspective of design education, form follow function, that you create a form which will follow the function. But now I think that whatever you do, it has to follow ecosystem, and you cannot really separate it out with the function and ecosystem. And we have to shift our gear to see that product centric to system centric. The future is going to be more system centric, and the planet works in a system. It's a plenary system which is there and which we have to really follow. The human system is there and plenary system is there. And we have to really match that, how we can really match with it. And that is the future which is going to be that from product centric to system centric. And there are lots of opportunity. So Manisha, you can tell in case if I have completely historical background, I have connected or not. But design education started with the product and consumption centric. And now we have to really get into system centric to work with planet. Your voice, you're muted. You're on mute.
I just thank you so much, sir, for that. Yes, it does give a historical perspective, and it also gives a sort of a take on the future. Now, what sectors do you feel that design can impact? Design is no longer just about pen and paper and just coming up with aesthetic solutions. It's a lot more than that. As you said, a systems approach is needed. But what sectors do you feel designers can make a difference?
Okay, let us. I just talked about second industrial revolution, which was, I think, somewhere 1870, which has happened. The first one was the steam away, and the third one was information technology, where this computer and chips and all those things have come up, and the telecommunication started, and a lot of things. Here, the change of design education started happening because electronics started coming in. In the fourth industrial revolution, which we are in, where physical, digital, biological spheres are merging. Actually, the boundaries are blurring of this physical, digital, and biological. And this is opening up a huge possibilities to see that where and what can be done. The world is completely indoor, and you see it's still going on because of internet. So Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, robotics, augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, all these things which are the part of fourth industrial revolution are going to somewhere become a major part of design education in the future. Now let us look into that. What is the impact which one can see in future is that from I to we, it is certainly going to be one major thing that I have done this, I have created this, I have designed this, and Philip Starks, which is fetching price because it has so much of name attached with the product, and this is the collection of that fashion designer, and this is the collection of this fashion designer. So the branding by the name may not necessarily be a bigger thing in future. So I feel that what is likely to happen is that multidisciplinary approach, that we designers are part of the bigger system, a larger system. And you know, the beauty of design education, and who are also willing to join design education after their schools, or the parents who are listening, especially this, that design education is very interesting. The way it has been evolved is a very holistic. What it does is that it gives the macro view about any problem or opportunity. If the COVID-19 has come, the challenge has come. And if challenge is there, there are opportunities. Many opportunities are there. And the design education suddenly, because it has a transdisciplinary nature, it starts connecting the dots and show the bigger picture, that what will happen if we are looking into connectivity with the nature, or biomimicry, or also seeing that if things are in 2.5 months time, the air has become fresh, the river water has become blue, and the birds are chirping everywhere. So you see the revival of things which are happening in just 55 days lockdown. I think somewhere designers can understand that these are the dot points, how we can develop newer ideas based on that. So the systems thinking is nothing but connecting the dots. And those dots, when you connect, that it will give a bigger picture, and designers become not they are they are everything, but they are part of the team for developmental activities, which is social, sustainable, economical, any kind of development we look into. Let me give you one example, Manisha, that I was asking that future how it is going to have a system-centric approach. This example, I usually talk about the designing of ATM machine. Most of us are using this ATM machine, which we withdraw the notes from there, and people think that it's electronic engineer or it's a mechanical engineer, production engineer must have done it. But they are the only element who are responsible for manufacturing. There are many stakeholders who are working on ATM machine design. You see, the town planner, where the machine is going to be put up. If the town planner's opinion you don't take, it may cause a problem on the where you are putting up, whether it is fitting properly or whether it is going to create a traffic problem. So the traffic police, whether the traffic situation is properly handled or not, when the ATM machine is put on the road, if a lot of people are going, traffic will get there will be impact on traffic. So the police becomes traffic police become an important stakeholder. Then the police also become is important, because the security, it deals with currencies. Crime happens near around. If it is a lonely place, then also there is a problem. If it is a crowded place, then also it is problem. So you have to really take the police point of view, traffic police point of view, town planners point of view, and then you have to see that old people who are going to go inside, can they go inside or not? Old people's point of view, the people who are visually impaired, whether you have designed a key pad properly where the visually impaired people can do it or not, that also you have to take their point of view. If the language is only few people know English, other people don't know, then what kind of graphics and information you will do, that also you have to consider. If people are on wheelchair, they cannot, then what kind of control panels you will design, you have to consider them also. So you see that engineer is one aspect, but there are lots of stakeholders. Their opinion becomes very, very important. And I'm not talking about the abuser, the person who abuses the machine, or the thief. He's also a stakeholder, because he's breaking the machine and taking out. So you have to also consider that these kind of people also, what way they can damage. So this is what is a system thinking, where you touch upon each and every contact point before designing any product, service, or system. So this is the system approach which I wanted to give you example, that future is going to be like that, where designer may coordinate, but co-creation and co-working and creating something for the social benefit certainly is going to be a major thing. One more aspect is that in industrial revolution, especially the consumption centric society which we had created, the inequality in the society has grown multifold. It's really sad to know that India is second highest in terms of inequality between rich and poor. The top is South Africa, and second one is India, where the difference between rich and people is grown multifold after this whole globalization, when it started after 1988 onwards, if you see. And globally, if you see that around 10 billionaires who top 10 billionaires have more wealth than half of the population of this planet actually. And in fact, you just take three, Microsoft, Google, and there is one more, I think, Amazon and Facebook. Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft, three of them have more wealth than 3.6 billion poorer people. So this inequality in future, I don't think you can say that the quality of life you can determine if the wealth inequality is so much. And this is going to be a one major challenge and opportunity to make society, we cannot make totally equal, but at least reduce the gap. So these are aspects which will come on particularly, and the future wise, if you see, the shift is going to happen from individualistic to the society, consumption to value centric. Now values are going to come very strongly, that if any act you are doing, is it going to harm people or society or flora or fauna? Certainly those values, responsible consumption, the sustainable development goals, if I don't know how many of you know, the United Nations have 17 goals are there, and we have to achieve them by 2030, 35. So I think these are the bigger challenges where you have to work with people. You have to see that the larger issues on sustainability on this planet with each and every one, and giving them equal importance. That is the responsible behavior. You will have to do that. You won't be able to manufacture anything where the chemicals, you just throw it into the river or you just pollute the air. Any act you do, I think there is going to be a measure that what repercussions it is going to do, and product systems and services all will be measured, and also democratizing of technology. That democratizing the technology, meaning that wherever you are, even Himalayan region, remotest part, you should be empowered to do something. So this is another area which will happen, and I will come back again. What are the other future aspects which are going to come for the community development? Manisha.
Thank you, sir. So some of the aspects that you talked about would involve building first century skills in designers, like communication, creativity, collaboration, because if you have to have a systems approach, you have to collaborate with so many different people, different stakeholders involved. So how does one build these skills in design students? How does one build good citizenship and the desire to make a difference in terms of building a greener environment, alleviating poverty, responsible consumption? These are all goals that designers can work towards. But how can design education help to inculcate these values?
Good question. In fact, you see, sometimes I feel that it is lucky to be born in India, because India is culturally diverse, socio-economic, cultural diversity, so much geographical diversity. There's so much is happening from east to west, north to south, and it's a country of celebrations where some or the other celebration is happening from different part of the country. If you go to Himalayas, minus 40 degrees centigrade, Ahmedabad 40 degree plus centigrade, and you go to south, it is different kind of temperature. So if anybody asks you, oh, what kind of weather is there in India, you can't say what kind of weather is there. It is minus 40 to plus 40, you know, you will have to say like that. Why I am touching upon is that, and why I'm saying that it is lucky to be born in India is that first of all, we have more than 5,000-year-old civilization. And there is so much cultural wealth which is there, which has sustained for so many thousand years. So there is a lot of clue which is there in our culture for sustainable development. The practices our forefathers were doing, even if we just document in the craft region, in our tribal areas, in our practices which were that is happening, and it is finishing very fast, you just get the clue from them. And I would say that there is so much of a spark in our culture and tradition that if we just try and understand and bring it into the classroom, I think we can provide the sustainable solutions to the world. So this is the point number one. Start valuing your culture, your tradition, its values which were there. I'm not saying the values may have been distorted, but the values of joint family, how the joint family the respect for elderly people, sharing of ideas. Everybody was important in the family to take care about it. All those were lots of things in agrarian ethos in this country. Values were there. In craft of Indian craft, if you see, it's a living tradition. You go and just document them, you will find lots of solution of sustainability. If you meet the tribal people, you will find that the knowledge, unfortunately, India is very poor in documenting the knowledge. And our history and our all knowledges which you look into are based on what Britishers have documented our history. Design education at this juncture is very important, that we document our tradition and culture. Start believing in yourself, because what you have through your tradition and culture, ideas, bringing it to classroom, merging it with the technology, creating a new knowledge would be your knowledge, which will be a kind of the thing which you have developed. Anything which you will copy, and this unfortunately mindset was always there, that whatever West is doing or whatever developed world is doing is better than us. If we follow, that is going to remain second hand. Unfortunately, we have followed that and we got into consumption, not realizing that there is so much of wealth in our craft, handicrafts, and handloom and other things, which could have been taken as a sustainability if we would have promoted khadi in a bigger way, which Mahatma Gandhi was talking 75 years ago. It would have been a fantastic textile for the world, which has hand woven, hand spun, zero carbon footprint, and you can do it anywhere, any remotest part of the country. Weaving and spinning is because it is a hand thing. It could have done it, but our fashion designers, our people, could not really bring it onto the forefront in the world market, and we could not really take the advantage of that. Now somebody else is talking about, then we started realizing that, oh, we should have done this. We have missed a lot of time, opportunity, but I think now it is time that we look back in our tradition, we look back into our culture, we talk to our mother, grandmother, father, grandfather, and get engaged in discussions and find out whether they have certain understanding about things, and then take it level. I would say the storytelling is one of the major thing, which obviously the animation activity is taking, but the storytelling is a very good medium by which, if you just document the stories of your grandmother, do that. My mother is studied only 3rd or 4th or 5th standard. One can say, oh, my mother is illiterate, and I say that's a highly ignorant way of anybody tells that my mother or my uncle or that they are illiterate, they have studied only 4th and 5th, not realizing that literacy in terms of number and wisdom which they have evolved over the years, the wisdom will be extremely useful rather than the number of BA, MA, or some other kind of thing. So this is one aspect I see for the future generation. Look into the tradition, look into the culture, try and understand that what are the nuances of that particular thing. Look at the NID has been set up in 1958. In fact, Eames had come and he was asked by government of India to suggest what kind of design institute, and when he moved around in India, and you know what he picked up? He picked up Lota, and he said that this Lota, the way it has been evolved generation after generation, and no single individual has designed the Lota. Generations where the new materials, new technology, new requirement, and next generation has designed somewhere else. So the building the future on the past knowledge, always relevant, because you are building up something on experience of the past and improving particularly. The technology is coming in between, which is modifying and allowing you to take it to the next level. So the Lota, you just take the Lota, how it has been evolved. It was there 5,000 years ago. It may have been in the clay or earthen pot, and then materials started coming in and started happening. And you see that when stainless steel has come, then it may have come. But puja ka lota, bathroom ka lota, pani ka matka, all these things have come up. and they're so well designed. In fact, the students who are there in UPES must see the Lota film, which talks about the design in a future context. It is there, I think, on website as well. So this is the point I am making, the build the future on the past experiences and the traditions which have survived for thousands of years. Last 200 years have really created more on the consumption-centric activities, which has done a damage. Now coming back to future of technologies. The future of technology is, which is enabling to a great extent, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, big data, robotics. They are not only for automation, they are for empowerment. Now, mistake which many of these countries are doing is that they are governed by the technology. That technology, robotics can do these things, so do this particular thing. And artificial intelligence can do this thing and do this particular thing. But designer, if you talk about design, I think what we need to do is just change the whole thing. We want to do this particular thing is good for sustainability, and then what technology we can use it from artificial intelligence, from robotics, and from other things. You see, so the technology is enabler. It is not on a leading position. People have to come on a leading position. It should be people-centric. It should be society-centric. And technology is supporting you. This mindset has to come that technology is only enabler. These are the tools which are given to us. First, you have to look into humanities. First, you have to look into environment. First, you have to look into sustainability, what is good and what is bad, and then pick up the prescription of technology and do this. Just for example, what is the way we can use Internet of Things? Telemedicine. Now, telemedicine is something where remotest part, if the expert can really give the treatment. Robotics, you can have in Northeast, where very difficult terrains, and if you have to do eye surgery, you can do eye surgery sitting with Internet of Things. So you can really reach to remotest part. But that condition is Indian condition. You have to find out what is required in India, how we can use this, all these kind of things, whether it is a disaster management, whether it is a the irrigation, or whether it is dealing with agriculture or healthcare, or all these aspects are the big data can give you information. Healthcare, look at women and child welfare, which we can talk about. Now, this tablet, which you can give it to the ladies, which NID, we did such a classroom project where the data are been collected of the maternity health care, where the women were trained to just collect the data and through internet send it to the healthcare, and the healthcare big data coming up, and they can analyze and they can do things. Total governance, traffic control, everything you see in India started happening with the technology. And you have to identify what is the opportunity and what are the problems. And once you create the brief, then you started taking the technology. I think somewhere this is the big mistake which we are doing, that we are looking into possibilities of the technology. And when possibilities of the technology which you start looking into, technology provides you hundreds and thousands of possibilities. And if every possibility you are converting into product, you are creating a problem. You are creating a problem of not having relevance of that particular product. It is becoming more of a redundant kind of thing. Today, this whole obsolescence is being created in a product just because technology gives you. You buy a product and after 2 years you chuck it because the new technology has come up. And then that is the way I think everybody is forced to change mobile phone and watches and shirts and trousers and everything. You're just changing it in without any even blink, and then just do that. So the bigger change is responsible decision making through design. Any decision you make, what are the repercussions? And that's why the circular economy comes in. And the circular economy term is Manisha reminded me that circular economy is very, very important aspect. Circular economy, just look into your planet Earth. Barring this plastic and other thing which had come 100, 200 years ago, whatever it is, you say, was there any wastage on the planet? There was zero waste. Anything waste is somebody's raw material or food. This is the way planet has worked. The leaves are falling down, they are having some purpose. Each and every flora, fauna, whether you the fly or the bee, or everything is relevant, and it is important to run the life on the planet. And you see that the example which Manisha was talking about, the coconut tree. Look at the coconut tree into the environment and the how generations were using it. The leaves you take out, the leaves you make chatai of the leaves. Then the what you call the stick which is there, which is keeping the leaf together both the side, that you're using it in making houses and brooms and other things. So leaves are useful, that the middle line is useful. Fruits, of course, because most saline water of the sea just next door is available in coconut. Then the coir, then the shell. Coir is just amazing material with so much is happening. Then the trunk is that where the again building material which is coming up. Each and everything is useful of that coconut tree. And I think each and everything of other things also are relevant in this planet. So this circular economy is for us to look into, that the waste from an industry is raw material from some another industry. There has to be cycle of pre-planning the whole thing, that I am going to use this material. In this life, it will be used like this. In second life, it will be used like this. In third life, it will be used like this. And it will go back to the first life. So there is no wastage. I think this is the way the whole circular economy aspect we'll have to bring in, to see that there is no wastage which is coming out, which will go to the planet, and we are not polluting anything, and keeping everything intact. Now, river, if you take, we were connected culturally, also requirement wise with the river, because river was giving us water, drinking water, irrigation water, everything. And that's why we always treated river like a goddess, that praying the river, because our life was dependent on that. And then suddenly the industrialization happens, the water was packed into bottle, and the water started coming to us with the bottle. The moment bottle started coming to our house, we detached ourselves with the river, and the moment we detached ourselves with the river, we lost the importance. I mean, like, we just forgot the importance of the river, and it started chucking the chemicals from the factory into the river, and this whole thing has started. If we would have remained connected with that, the problem may not have come. I think this relationship with each and every species will have to be rebuilt again. The planet, as they say, that with our technology, science and technology arrogance, we try to control everything, and no time we have been shown our position, that where we stand, because we are also one of the microorganism, and like any bacteria or any such kind of thing, we also have similar situation what others have. So in no time we can also be finished. So I think we start respecting the Mother Earth in a very, I would say, this strong term, and take care of it. And the future of complete development and design education is going to based on these values of responsible design, which you do, and create a better tomorrow for the next generation. I think that is the way it is going to be, but it is going to be exciting because our culture is so rich, our traditions are very interesting, and we can really take out lots of things from there.
So you mentioned several aspects of design education. There are tactile aspects, there are crafts, there is the integration with the environment, with culture. There's so many different aspects to design. The question on a lot of people's mind, and I can see from the audience also, there are questions coming in into the chat box about online design education. How
Okay.
feasible do you think it is, and what is your view on it?
You see that when design education started, it was more of a vocational learning by doing. Learning by doing and learning from the field. These two things, NID was built actually. And a lot of emphasis was given by making things where you need workshop, you need laboratories, you need things. And suddenly you see that the situation has come up where online has become the reality. Now let us look into what opportunity and what possibilities are there on online. Online, the biggest opportunity I would say is that the world become the complete classroom. You can have professor from sitting in San Francisco and can take your class. You can sit, somebody is in Africa and take your class. Somebody is there, you can do research projects like that. That maybe time differences are there, but the research teams are working together on projects which are of greater relevance. And so the biggest crunch of faculty which is there in design education, because design education is expanded, online education gives you opportunity of experts from wherever they are, because traveling is not such a conducive aspect. People cannot come out from there. So you can pick up courses from anywhere. That is going to happen in future, that some courses are offered from this university, some courses are offered from, that will be the idealistic situation on online situation. Another thing is that as I'm talking about uh, strategic thinking, meaning not necessarily all design courses are required to have a lab and you have to work there. It is not, because the many of these strategic thinking related courses, strategic design management for that matter, or the systems thinking which we are talking about, or more of a research centric projects can certainly be looked into, and you can create a virtual prototype. You don't have to have a physical prototype. A lot of people are creating virtual prototypes. So you create a prototype. There are tools available where you can see from all the sites those prototypes, and then in fact I'm told that Boeing, the advanced Boeing was there, entire thing was created on virtual. But it's a mindset which we will have to do that. Only thing is that this whole experiential part of it, that you are experiencing the material, you are feeling the material, you are doing that. So I would say that the group of designers have to work in the field. We have to work on those traditional like craft sector. If you are working, material becomes a very important. The textile sector, if you are doing, material becomes very important. You can surely make a virtual designs and see that how you can send it to through internet to the craftsperson, and how they can create the design, or how you can create virtually first before making it and do that. So I would say that while you may feel that there is going to be limitation, or faculties may feel, oh, how will we teach, because our project, ours is a very studio centric and equipment centric. I think somewhere we will have to change our mindset to see that how, if reality is giving what opportunities, and how we can tweak this technology for our benefit, and see that part of it can be done virtually, and part of it may be in a lab situation. Now this will allow you that you can take a guide from anywhere, and you can do lots of things on virtual doing things. And only when you have to make a model or some such thing, you can go to the institute and do. Not necessarily every day you have to come to the institute, because this will take time to change the aspect that we have realized in these last 56 days, that we can work from home. People have, including me, had 3 board meetings from home actually. So all those travelings, it is not that you cannot do it, but at least I would say the huge chunk of thing can come on online. And if anybody has prejudice that it is not possible, it is certainly greater activity can happen with evolving a newer way of doing it and making it more exciting actually. This kind of thing where the platforms will allow you to have even the group discussions, and group discussions could be that few students are from this part and that few students from this part and few people are from there, and you can have a group discussions. Those kind of platforms are also there. So I would say one side it is very exciting online education, another side we have to evolve that this whole workshop and creative culture industry and going into the field and doing things, important part. We'll have to also make it, and we have to balance it between the hands-on and digital platform.
Thank you. There are several questions about what choice one should make in terms of design discipline, because there is interaction design, there's automotive design, product design, fashion design. We talked about the bigger picture of how designers can make a difference in different domains, but when it comes to a design student or a prospective design student, how do they make a choice?
All right, good. Nice. Actually, every child, including me, when we are 5 years old, we want to design car. Every not 5-year-old, but I would say the higher secondary, when they are into this and they want to get into design, they want to design car. I would say that first of all, aptitude, attitude and skills, 3 things are there which we have to really try and identify that where we fit in very well. My view, all children are intelligent. They all have creative ability. But a few of them are cut out for design, and few of them are cut out for finance, or few of them are cut out for science. It depends upon the aptitude, whether they have that kind of aptitude or not. It is important. We should not force anybody who is good in textiles, and you're forcing because you want a car designer, so you are taking the car design. So we have to try and understand where our aptitude is there. So this is one part which immediately you will not be able to do it, but I don't know, in UPES, you have a foundation program, foundation year?
Yes, we have a common foundation program for all the specializations in our undergraduate course.
So foundation year is a very, very important. I would suggest all these parents and the students who are applying for the design education, first of all, they should have very open mind that we'll see, because all areas give a very good opportunity of career possibility. Everybody, if they want to become car designers, they may not get an opportunity to design a car, because it's a rare thing that designer get a, because car is very expensive thing. It's almost like 2,000 crore rupees you invest in designing a newer model. So heavy investments are there. So everybody, if they become car designer, what will happen? The public station becomes another area where people can do. But I think when you join foundation year, and when just open mind, you see that whether you are very good in sketching, whether you are very good in material, hard material, whether we are very good in computer related activities, doing things on technology and other things, and trying to engage with faculty and see that what seniors are doing, what kind of work interesting them. So I think preconceived idea we should not go. Our choice, first, second, third, what we feel about it, because usually when you will go to UPES, the faculty will be able to talk about their curriculum, what they teach, what is happening there. and they're very seasoned faculty and experienced people, leader like Manisha Mohan is there, who have so much of experience to tell that what are the things which are good and where you can really go. So by the end of the foundation, you would know which direction your strengths are, and that aspect you should look into. I would say that if your passion connect with that discipline where you are very much passionate, you will become successful designer. But if you are trying to force somewhere where the passion is not there, but desire is there, maybe there is a misfit, and then that will be little frustrating thing. So try and identify your passion, not looking into the external forces, but ability to work with the skills which are required in that. So this is one part which is there, where one textile, when you are looking into a particular types of skills are there, or the animation you are looking into, or the computer aided design you are looking into. But it is not difficult that you can shift also. If you are good in textile, you can also be good into animation also, because the basic sensitivity is there in you. So I think all disciplines are important, but give yourself time and foundation to identify yourself. You also create a portfolio which is the area your interest is lying, because all of you are doing sketching, all of you are working on some material, all of you are making kind of drawings, but you see what excites you, what is the inner voice which is coming, which wants you to do things which you always enjoy it. And design is something that people's hobby is our profession. What else you want? So you just find out your passion, and once the passion is there, connect it with that particular line, you will be successful, whether you are in textile, whether you are in communication, whether you are in what you call digital space designs which are there, and doing so. But fewer aspect I want, when you will appear for the design test, don't keep any pressure. I always, whoever come to me, I tell them that pressure of performance should not be there, because if you are right, you will get in. And if you are not having that ingredients, and if you don't get through, don't push yourself too much. And parents should not push also. This is the message for this, that let the child be natural course appear for the test, and allow him or her to appear with best of him or her capabilities to apply for the test. And if the abilities is there, they are going to succeed. And that's why sometimes I say that the coaching is fine, but if inner voice is there and you don't have those kind of skills, you should attempt and you should get in. So no pressure when you apply, just be meaning that just be natural. What will happen maximum? You may not get admission. Nothing is the end of the world. So if you don't get admission, there are 2, 3, 4 option 1, option 2, option 3. We can do it. And if suppose nothing happens, then we should look into whether we are pushing ourselves too much here or not. Design education certainly is a great career. It can fit in so many places, but also this requires excellence, because in design, mediocrity doesn't work. If you are totally passionate, then you can certainly achieve greater height. You will be visible to a greater extent in the society to see that you are working on important project. But we should not push ourselves. Other thing I would like to mention to all the students and parents and teachers also, faculty members, that there's too much of negativities there everywhere. If you switch on the television, the only negative news are coming up. If you open the newspaper, the only negative news are there. If you, the children who are growing, the parents are talking all the time negative thing, that nothing is working, things are not moving, what is happening to this world, and this and that. And these are the, actually unknowingly, when the child is growing in our house, we are talking like that. And what impression is coming to the child who has to live entire life afterwards? You go to the school, the teachers are also talking like that, that what is happening, nothing is happening, nothing is moving, and everything is bad. So you open the television, you at home, you teacher, everybody is talking negative. What kind of next generation which we are making if suppose there is no hope? I think that's why consciously, to all faculty member, to all parents, media, I cannot say, optimism is very important. One thing is, always give your child, you can do it, it is possible. You will not do it, who will do it? That is the way I think faculty should also tell to the students. Yes, come on, we'll try, we will make it. Not getting into negative mode. I think this will encourage a student to perform so well in their life, that optimism, consciously attempt to give hope continuously to your children, that yes, it is important to always keep a hope to do things, and you are able to do it, and it is possible. The second thing I would say, the sincere effort. Never tell your child or anybody to have a shortcut, because shortcut is not going to yield any kind of result in long run. Shortcut will die short way also. So I think the sincere effort is, anything you do, you must put your best effort. You must, this is what the passion comes in. The moment you're identifying passion and this thing, then you effort, not that it is my responsibility, but it is the joy which I want to do it and I am doing it. That sincere effort should come in. And the third thing is the integrity. Without integrity, I think the life is not worth living. You see that you may gain something in a short while, but on the cost of somebody else. And if world, whatever people are doing, forget it. You should have integrity in your systems. I guarantee you, you have optimism, you have sincere effort, you have integrity. Nobody can stop you achieving what you want to do. And this is what, to faculty, to student, to parents, this is the message I would like as a teacher to give to you, that please start inculcating that behavior, attitude and aptitude and skills, so that to make a greater human being and greater professional.
Yes, sir. So there is a question. It's related to a point that you made a little earlier in the discussion. It's about how do designers bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. And I was also thinking a little bit about the World Design Organization and perhaps the role that they are playing. So would you like to talk about that aspect?
Sure. I think, as I'm saying, that technology is empowering you. Those who have money, anyway, they will find out means to get whatever they want to. Those who don't have means, actually, the designer can do a lot for them. And that's why I'm saying, what are the basic thing is roti kapda makan. If a basic thing you start, can you design a shelter which is of a very inexpensive or some such kind of thing? Can you really look into healthcare, that which provides with the designing a system in such a way that remotest part, you can make a very user friendly healthcare system, where because designer's role is integrating the various aspects of it. You talk to doctor, you talk to collector, you talk to what is the hardcore reality in the remote part, and then you put it on the drawing board and create a system and explain it to them. Even the, I would say, authorities like the ministers and other people, to plan it out, what can be done for providing the education, distance education in a municipal school. Municipal school, if you have money, you can send your best of the colleges and schools. But if municipal school is there, if teacher is not there, can you really work it out? The interaction design, interactivity, where the languages and technology all are available. You create something where the education can be made available to people. Healthcare can be made available to remotest part of the places. the education, healthcare, also the online business opportunity to craftspeople. The craftspeople, Northeast is such a difficult terrain, such a beautiful crafts are there. How will you really work out a system where you can have better design, you supply them, they make it, they sell it all over the world with the technology. I think lots of places where even if you try and devise something, you can see that you can help in creating even income, like micro, small, and medium enterprises. It is the second largest employer in this country after agriculture. Now, MSMEs, small and medium and small businesses, can you really look into that, how you can add value? If sabji wala is selling vegetables, you have to just, a small thing is the thela which you can design, and the presentations and the other things can become better. Or golgappa, pani ka, the chaat or something, if suppose somebody is making and it is unhygienic situation is there, your creative mind, you create the street business more profitable. So there are lots of places where you see people are making money every day and earning it. I tell you, this is the one part I'm talking about individuals. There could be a chain of things where people have to sit in their houses and they do things, and the market can be created with the technology. So technology is enabler, and technology can, the word is democratize, that the accessibility or the power in the hands of poor you can give. Mobile phone, look at the mobile phone has empowered so much to the people. Look into applications of mobile that which can be used for poor people to make a better business. Health and hygiene and all these areas, you can see that slowly, because this coverage and the reach of this technology is so big, only you have to imagine the model first, that what are the models which I can do where we can really create. Look at supermarket has come because we copied the Western world and created. Have you thought about developing a model for Kirana store? End of the day, all supermarkets were closed and the Kirana stores were your lifeline in COVID. You were only getting next door Kirana shop. I think you have realized the importance of Kirana store. Can you really work out a system where the home delivery can be made with the Internet of Things, and all small shops can create a brand? You can create it. Small businesses focus on small businesses. Micro, small industries focus on that. Agriculture focus on that. Healthcare focus on that. Inequality will reduce, and I think we will have at least minimum. It is not only financial inequality I'm talking about. It is also dignity. The dignity is so important that today when you see the migrants are going back, you feel that what is happening to humanity, what kind of pain they are going through, and how we really resolve such kind of situations. I think empathy, not sympathy. You start doing empathy with the society, you will find the solution and you will reduce the inequality. And don't detach yourself that yes, you are different and poors are different. If you just get into empathy mode, you will be able to connect with them. And mind you, those are the people who have fire in their belly. You give them opportunity, they will do wonders. But you have to connect with them. You have to go look into opportunity with the technology and see that the quality of life. End of the day, it's a quality of life which we have to focus on, to see that even if they are not making too much of money, but they are living in a dignified way. They are living in a good healthcare system. They are eating a good food, and then they are getting a better education. Not necessarily only. So you can really give a tool for better education, and it is happening. It is not, and the design future will focus on such things.
Great. Thank you so much. There's another very interesting question on how designers can impact people's behavior and attitude towards more sustainable lifestyles.
Very
We
good.
touched upon some of this, but would love to hear your views specifically.
It's a very behavior pattern can be modified with design. Actually, chalta hai chalega attitude. This this is really a killer, that you just compromise on everything because अरे चलेगा इसमें क्या है, let it be like that. But I can give you example that the person who is misbehaving on road has been corrected in no time with the design and technology. Ahmedabad, the city which I come from, is very interesting place. In fact, you will find that everybody is in rush. This is an Indian phenomena also, that you will spend hours together on pan ki shop, but when it comes to railway crossing, everybody wants to go first. They don't realize, I don't know what is the hurry, that they can't really remain in their line and they want to go into that, and finally the entire thing gets clogged and it takes more than half an hour. If they would have been behaving properly, it would have gone like this. And this is the scenario which you see, that you are spitting pan anywhere where you want. The BMW will open the door and then they will spit pan on the road. Now 200 rupees fine is there. So I don't know whether this thing, what is happening. But I'm saying how you can modify the behavior. The signal here, unless there is a traffic police, people were not following the signal. They were not following the signal. So the police was there to monitor. If red light is there, then police will say you cannot go. Then people will stop, and then green will come, then they will go. So police has to monitor the signal. And the moment police is gone, then the chaos is there. Everybody is there onto the char rasta. And I don't know, then it's nightmare that how you will do that. So the technology brought cameras, and they put on these crossroads the cameras over there, and the lines were there to demarcate that you should be like this. The moment you cross in the red light, and the camera has captured the number, and again because of the technology convenience, the what you call the challan comes to your house, that 1000 rupees first time, 100 rupees first time, second time 1000 rupees, third time 6 months license will be finished. Maybe 1000, 2000 such kind of challans have reached to people's home, because the moment registration number is there, you can decode the whole information. Somebody has really worked out the systems actually. You will find that 2 o'clock in the night, there is no traffic. The person is standing behind the line, waiting for signal to become green and go. So somebody must have thought about the system, modified the behavior. I think this is again forcible. I would not say that this is a right thing, that your punishment only is a controlling factor. How will you motivate people not to behave in a odd situation? It's a little complex issue. It has a lots of connotations. If suppose VIP vehicle is going, why should they can go and why we will not go, and all those aspects are also there. So the behavior has to be modified from the top to see that everybody behaves in that. So I don't know how much time Manisha is there, but I want to tell 1 minute story to people about behavior. And this the story goes like this, that one Indian person goes to Japan to meet his friend. And his friend was a Japanese living in a small village in Japan. And they said, okay, afternoon, we'll show you the village. So he takes his Indian friend, and they have to go, and they see that the road when they had to cross the road, there is a signal over there. And for crossing the road, there was a red light. So you cannot cross, because for pedestrian, it's like the person who has to cross road, there has to be green line, then you will cross. It was a town, no traffic whatsoever, no car was visible, and this Japanese person was standing waiting for red light to become green light. So the Indian fellow was very uncomfortable because they were not used to, if car is not there, why not cross the road? He said that no vehicle is there, why don't we cross the road? Well, no, we will not cross the road. Let the green light happen. So again, this guy was very impatient. He said that I don't see any car anywhere. We just cross it. So when 3 times Indian friend told Japanese person, then this person said that, see, we will cross only when green light is there. And the reason is that if suppose some child from somewhere looking at us and seeing that these adult people are crossing road when the red light is there, what messages we are giving to that child who is growing up? I think we have to behave in certain way. So we give the message to the next generation, if it is a red light, you will not cross road. Whether there are cars are there or not, it doesn't matter. It's a rule which says so. And this is the way, that's why I'm not crossing the road. Then this friend understood that you have to demonstrate sometime when you are in a power position, when you are in a such position, and create. But with the design also, you modify the behavior. People sleep in bus stops, people spit in bus stop, people bang the public telephone. Sometimes if you design the seats which will not allow people to sleep on that, you create use the material in such a way that people will not spit in the corner. I think with the design, you create such kind of scenario where people will not misbehave with that particular thing, and that is the way you can do things. Dustbin also, people just throw garbage outside the dustbin and don't put in the things. I think those are the challenges which you have to think about creatively and see that you put some kind of thing that social pressure that you have to behave properly, otherwise people will not recognize. China has started doing the social credits actually, that if you don't behave properly, the credits, because they map the facial expression of individual who is not behaving properly onto the road, whether it's a traffic or creating some kind of ruckus or doing things which should not be doing. And then the social credit, but this like the number plate, your face is also a number plate thing. And when you go for the loan or something, then they see the social credit. You want to get some license for something, they see the social credit. That is the way. There are behavior patterns have been modified with the technology and other things. I would say I would not go for such kind of pressure tactics. You have to find a very creative way, like the Japanese senior person when they're crossing the road, creating example. Maybe those are the things we have to really see, that how weak systems which will not allow us to misbehave like that. If railway crossing you design in such a way that it will not allow anybody to go into the other line, maybe you will be modifying their behavior with the design. That is what I would like to say.
Sir, there are a lot of questions out here, but I don't think we have time to respond to all of them during the webinar. We can always send our responses later. They're all very valuable questions, and we will get you a response. I have just one last question from my side. That is, what is your advice to the faculty and students of UPS School of Design? What is your advice to UPS in terms of how we can move towards contributing to a sustainable and better world?
The faculty, I would like to say faculty, the faculty's role is now faculty is facilitator. In today's time, whenever a student used to ask my opinion when I was teaching, and I used to tell the student actually that you may be more creative than me. So how can I tell you the solution, that this solution is correct or something? Because that is your viewpoint. What I have more is experience. So I can share my experience with you, but I would not say that you do like this or do like that. So message to faculty is that don't impose your ideas or your way of doing things to this creative mind, and allow them to have the independent point of view. Each individual has independent point of view. And I think the faculty's role is to nurture, and I think even parents' role also to nurture their independent point of view. Because we don't want followers, we want leaders. We want thought leaders who can really shape this earth in a positive manner. So we should be facilitating them for nurturing their idea, identity, and empowering them to believe in themselves, empowering them to make the decisions, and telling them that yes, you explore this, but you tell them the ways, that this is one way, this is one way, this is one way. You judge it. What you judge better, you do it. So faculties think no imposition, no teaching. It's a learning platform. Design is a learning platform. It's not a teaching thing. It's a facilitating to the people and allow people to think freely and have their point of view and have their opinion. And parents should also somehow, somewhere allow that kind of freedom to develop the individuality in a person. So each person has an individual way of their thinking, and each student is a special student faculty should take. Faculty should also not differentiate between two students, because one speaks very well, another one is not speaking so well, one makes drawing very well, another one is not become judgmental, and working and trying to identify the strengths of the student. Each student has a strength, and your role is like a gardener to really nurture that the flower really boom. And this is the role, and it's a very responsible role. Teaching is not a light, or the faculty member who is involved in facilitating is a very responsible role. Very cautiously, what you talk to the student, what examples you give to a student, what way you really nurture, and not to compare to students. Both of them are very individuals, and treat them individuals and take them forward. This is even the parents also, between the two siblings, they have to follow the similar kind of thing. For a student, I would say, for a student, don't all the time look for confirmation from that, sir, this is right or wrong, sir, this, can I do it or not? You try and articulate what you want to do. You try and develop your own point of view. It is important that you have a point of view. School education is very much like yes and no. There is no gray value in between. This is also possible. Look into it. This we can do. Maybe explore, do that, and develop this habit of not trying to just get a total confirmation from teachers and come out with that, and not argue, but you put your point of view, discuss with faculty, put at least either you convince or get convinced, but get into the discussion with the faculty members to put forth. Then the original thing will come. Otherwise, what will happen, that with some experience somebody will tell, do like this, and you will do it, and then you will maybe getting some grade or something. But when the real life challenge will come, you will not be able to do it, because you don't have your point of view to take it forward. So this is what I would say, that the student, first of all, find out your passion, find out your skills, find out and put your best effort, and try and justify what you're doing. Don't try and mimic your classmate, or don't try and see that some fashion book or some books in the library and try and take it. They are references, but not just telling you how to do it. You have to get into some original process of your ideas, and get ideas from anywhere. Get idea from nature, get ideas from culture, get ideas from there. And read, if possible, read, because reading is not there at all these days. So reading how past people have designed good examples, and see that how they have built it. Maybe that will influence you of your way of looking at it, your way of thought process, and refine it and do it. Education is like this. I hope I'm not making confusing people, actually, more trying to put forth my point of view.
Not at all. I think you're crystal clear. And yes, we do have to build independent learners who can think for themselves and have a point of view. That's definitely very important. And I think as UPS School of Design, we are in a very special position, because we're near the Himalayas. And the fact that the hilly region has many challenges for designers to take up. There are places where design can make a difference in waste management, as well as in developing the tourism industry, as well as looking at some of the migrants and supporting them. So there are many opportunities out there for us us to do projects over there, research over there, and build it up as a special place. Plus, the backdrop is wonderful in terms of being green, the mountains, a good place to support design education and practice a lot of the things that you have told us in
No, but
terms of.
actually, good you reminded me, because this is one of the point I wanted to also mention, that the Himalayan region and sustainability are very much connected with that. The hilly regions. There are 11 states in our country, 8 northeastern states, and Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir. 3 in north, 11 states, and the huge area which is there, and the tremendous potential for designers to work in a circular economy, ecological aspects, looking into fragile ecosystems of the hilly region. What are the things which you can do? How tourism can be made very effective, which doesn't ruin the environment? How packaging can be worked out, how communication can be worked out, what kind of industry which we can bring in, creative industries which will not hamper environment, and do that. And UP is in such a strategic location for learning about the sustainable development, which is going to be the global future. So I would say that being in the foothills of Himalayas, the UPES is a tremendous opportunity and offer to the students to connect with the lot of this Himalayan crucial aspects of development actually. And this opportunity, if people join UPES and work with some of these agencies operating over there, I think the relevance of education will become worldwide. The things which they will learn in UPES will have implications, because the sensitivity with the environment I see in UPES is much more than any place, because you are directly connected with Himalaya over there. And you see that whether it is adventures, sports is there, whether it is tourism is there, whether it is flowers, flora, fauna, medicinal plants, and so many industries which are coming for the future industries, mindfulness, which are coming for the quality of life, which are coming for where the shift from industry chaos to more of a natural living with harmony is coming up. I think those are the areas, the learning and understanding through field. UPES is certainly a very strong strategic location which can give insights about sustainable thinking.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. And I think those are very and great inputs for us. Lots of work for us to do at UPS School of Design, faculty, students, researchers, all put together. We really want to make a difference to the larger good of things and make it a better world. So I guess now we've run out of time. I think we've got some excellent inputs from you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving me opportunity, and I would certainly like to tell parents and students that today design education is really like technology was booming, then management was booming, and now design education is coming in forefront. And then we have to take a decision where the best design education for long-term benefits of sustainable development can come. We have to take decision. But all parents who think that the children should go to engineering and medicine, please change your opinion. Design will offer much better career and possibilities than those disciplines which were actually 1.6 million engineers this country is producing, and then suddenly employability is becoming such a big issue. that 50% or 40% seats have gone empty actually, some of country over. So design requires everywhere. The good job opportunities when I was in NID, in fact, there were more employers coming for jobs than the candidates available. So still we are not like China that we are producing 60, 70, 80,000 in designers per year. We are not producing even 10, 15,000 or so. So there is a good demand of designers in the country, and it gives a great job satisfaction. So the parents, if they are little confused about engineering and medicine and design, I strongly believe that if your child has some aptitude for design, please allow them to take this career path.
Great. Thank you so much. And yes, many of the design students that we've had so far, for them, they are the ones who made the choice of design as a profession. It's not been the parents telling them to become designers. But hopefully that will change, and parents and sort of children will also think alike and move towards the creative professions, because I do believe that that's where the future lies. So on that note, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much for giving
really wonderful.
Great pleasure talking to people who listen, and I hope that it will be useful for them. Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank
giving.
you. Thank you. Thank you very much, students, parents, Canva Design, faculty, whoever made it. I hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.